It will not only determine the nature of the individual, it will also determine how everything else happens around that being. Depending upon its frequency, amplitude and other dimensions of the sound, it will give out a specific form every time. You know something about physics, at least in high school if you studied physics. You definitely had at least a chapter, 2 pages on sound. If you feed a sound into an oscilloscope, a sound measuring instrument, depending upon its frequency, amplitude and other dimensions of the sound, it will give out a specific form every time. So a sound has a form attached to it. Similarly, a form has a sound attached to it. In many ways, the sounds that you utter and the forms that you use these sounds to refer to are connected. Once you know the hidden sound of a certain form, you also know the form. You find a certain access and a certain intimacy to that form. Now when a child is born, depending upon the geometric situation of the solar system, people decide that this sound would be best for somebody who's born at this time on this day. Now, we must name your child in such a way that every time you call that name, something within him should loosen up. Above all, the child constantly hearing the name will not become a closed life, will become an open possibility, because constantly, every time his name is uttered, something touches him very deep down inside. Not just a way of calling a person, but a way of opening a person just by uttering the name, because existence is just a complex amalgamation of reverberations. In this complex process of various types of vibrations, you also are one. If you just become just one more, you are like a grain of sand, nothing. In the vastness of this cosmic space, this little body is nothing. But if this hidden sound finds expression, then this is like a key to everything. This not only opens me, but it also opens the other, whatever I touch with this sound, because this is my sacred key. So, every child, when he is born, the parents were given the freedom to give them some pet name for their emotional satisfaction, but his real name was given by somebody else who was supposed to know better than the parents. Not always, but what is the fundamental reverberation of this little child? So they wait for a certain period of time, they observe the child, they make other astrological calculations and arrive that this is the hidden sound of this child. And that is what we should bring out, because it is only in blossoming that, it is only in allowing that to flower and find expression, this child will find full expression to his life. Otherwise, a seed that never sprouted, on the surface many things happened, that's not it. And this is how even the deities are named. The other day someone told me, So, I sent word for them. They were not available anywhere. I said, where were you? This person said, Sadhguru, I was at DLT. I said, what? DLT? Where were you? I was at Dhyanalinga temple. Oh, DLT. So you go to DLT, it's one thing. I was in Dhyanalinga, that's a different thing. The deities are named like this. If you utter the sound Bhairavi, tears should come to you. If you say Dhyanalinga, stillness should come to you. If you say Sadhguru, a wave of ecstasy should pass through you. If you utter the sound with the necessary involvement, because sounds are not just nonsensical garbage. Sound is reverberation. If the reverberation is right, it gives you the needed access. If you want to have the pleasure of music, you can listen to music. If you want to find deeper access to life, you must listen to the reverberations, not to the lilt. Lilt is surface. Lilt is a small thing, beautiful, but that's it. The reverberation, or the very making of life. How this one reverberates right now, it'll determine everything about this one. If this reverberates right, it will not only determine the nature of this one's life, it will determine the nature of everything's life. It will not only determine the nature of the individual, it will also determine how everything else happens around that being.
To transform people's life, you have to create the right kind of sound. There is a whole training in which what is called as Nada Yoga, just to modulate the voice in such a way that if you just utter a sound, it must transform the situation around you. This is a very subtle aspect. How can I change my voice? Everybody can change their voice if they do the necessary sadhana for it. So every morning kneading the entire body with asana and Surya Namaskar and whatever is just to fine-tune it such a way that if it sits here, it generates the right kind of reverberation.